How are we going, everybody? We're going to build a raised garden bed today. In this bed here that I took the soil out a few weeks ago. Now, it's a good opportunity now to build it. Now, this is what it was like before. Ignore the silver bit, it's all gone to seed, it's bolted. It's all going to come out. I don't need these. We had a trench there so we can separate the weeds and the garden bed. But because the ground is so low, close to the root system of all these trees, I'm struggling to keep the moisture and the vitality in the soil. We had it dumped over here. What we're going to do with that is mix it through with a bit of bark that we have, aged bark. We're going to put mulch at the bottom, straw that is, put some chicken manure, black grit and all the wonderful stuff we talk about every day back into the garden bed, but we're going to do it as we're adding it in, layering it and raking it through, and I'll show you how that happens later on. But for now, what we've done is leveled off the soil in here. It was that high. We've taken some of it out and then we pushed the sides in and filled the trenches. Got to level all this off neatly and make sure it's well compacted, and then we're going to build our beds. Now, I still am undecisive or indecisive of how wide I'm going to do this. This bed here is, well, from the outside it's 1450 wide, which is not too bad because I can actually access up to the middle. If I was to go by the trenching, I've got 3/6 sleepers, and I'm using eco-friendly sleepers. Apparently they're eco-friendly. Unless I get the documents on it and read the certification, I can only go by the word. So that's what we're using, and our width here is 2.1 max. If I was to use these sleepers in half, 3/6, 1/8. So I'll have to go 1/8 outside to outside, which is really coming in there. 1/8, for those who don't know what I'm talking about, is 1 meter 800 or 80 centimeters, 1.8 meters. There it is there, to the point there to there. So we're going to lose about 100 mil on either side, or 150 mil. So it was 2.1, 1/8, so that we don't have any offcuts, any waste. So 3/6, 3/6, it's 7.2 long by 1.8 wide. It's basically 14 square meters. Too high for now. We need to go 3 high, but for now, because I haven't got any more soil, actually I do, I've just dug up a whole paddock, but I haven't prepared that soil, so we'll raise it 2 high, 2 sleepers high, and later on, as the soil completes or we finish a cycle, whatever comes first, we'll end up putting another sleeper. Ultimately, we want it to be 3 high, 60 centimeters high, but we'll work with 2 high for now. So first step, compact the soil all the way around. Folks, they say Greeks love concrete, maybe not as much as Italians, but we love our soil more. Lucky I did my apprenticeship with some Italian concreters. I'm not sure if they're still alive, but Tony and Joe, they'd be well into their 90s by now. Funny story, every time I rang up Signora to say, hey, where's Tony? I've got some work for him. She'd say, Tony at the doctor. And that was code for he's pouring concrete, because he was a pensioner back then. We're talking 25 years ago now, so. But I did learn a lot of great trades and tricks when it came to leveling. I've just finished cutting my bracing here, and I'm going to use these as uprights to join the 2 horizontal walls, as if you want to call them that, that's the sleepers, together. So now they're 200 high. I've cut 400 long ones, and these are the larger ones, the long ones, which will basically grab the corners of my sleeper. So imagine there's a corner here, there's another piece going on. So I wanted them to be the full length so they get a full coverage of the timber, whereas these ones are a little bit shorter, plus the fact the length, I didn't want to have too much wastage, so I've cut them a little bit shorter so I can get an even amount out of them, and they're about 320 long, that's 32 centimeters long, so they don't reach quite the top. But what we're going to do with these is put 3 down the center, equally spaced as bracing between the top and bottom. So they'll sit there like that, a little bit short from the top, and when the bottom sleeper's in place, it'll be there and we can screw them into place, and that'll stop the sleepers, because they're notorious for twisting and turning and buckling as they dry out, folks. So we need to brace them, and you can see the old one that I built here, I haven't put any screws, purely the nail gun, that's it. I haven't gone back to screw it, and I will, and I should have, and all that stuff. And you can see it's already twisting a little bit, but we have got bracing in between, just as we have here. There's a brace here that's keeping these pieces together, but there isn't one just here. It's too far apart, and that's why I needed one here. You can see it's buckled out a little bit there, not too much to worry about, but in some circumstances you'll find they'll really twist. It depends on the age of the timber, and 99.9% of you tradies and landscapers and chippers know that when they bring the timber in, it's so green, it hasn't matured, it hasn't cured properly, and when you get it out on site, it starts to twist and turn and buckle and deform. So you need to brace it as best you can before all that happens, or otherwise just let it happen, then send it back and say, give me some new timber. I'm rolling some plastic down, polyurethane plastic, folks, as a base to stop the potential of any weeds coming through, but the reality is this garden bed here in particular will get very little weeds in it, if any, because it's so dry being so close to the trees, whereas the other garden beds down the other end, they are getting bombarded by cooch. They're sneaking in, and the plastic has actually stopped that from entering into the garden bed. So it's a barrier between the weeds, potential weeds, and the soil I have in here, and it'll also act like a wicking bed, a semi-wicking bed. So it'll hold its moisture, but not as severely as normally as a normal wicking bed, because the walls are permeable, being timber. So we're not lining the walls. I've done the same thing here. You can see that I've had the plastic come through the base of the walls, and I've folded it back up and nailed it together with a 3B2 or 3B1.5, which is 70 by 30 mil, 35 mil, nailed against that to hold the plastic in place. And you can see when we brush cut, you know, a little bit of seed and grass falls in there, and the grass will actually grow underneath this and pop its head out like it has just there, but it doesn't get into the garden bed. So that's our barrier using the plastic, and it helps to retain the moisture in, because you know this place here is as dry as a bone at the best of times. Even with the high rainfalls, it dries out the next day. We're going to take this old framework down, folks. It was once upon a time used for the tomatoes to climb up on top, but I'm going to rebuild it all again. So this is an old school style thing, you know, just recycled timber. Again, we'll do it, but a bit neater, I think, once we finish building it. And plus, it's eating away with my plastic. I can't roll out my plastic because these posts end up being in the garden bed. So out it comes. All right, just collapse. It was only held together with a bit of wire, folks. Oh, bugger me. Is it? Okay. Now, folks, if you haven't used power tools before, don't do it like the way I'm about to do it. This is not the way you cut timber. I'm only going to do it because I can't be bothered doing it any other way. See what happens? It's jammed. Can you lift that side up? Done. If you've got an extra helping hand, it makes it a lot easier. The last time we built a garden bed for video, for filming, folks, was done with Mama. She was over helping me, and we put it on 7.2. And you can watch that episode too on our Catch Up TV. So if you are a member, that means if you've subscribed to our magazine, you'll have automatic access to the Catch Up page on our website, vasili'sgarden.com that is, and you can watch that episode. These are 3/6 long, so we need to cut them in half so we can do the ends, which will help us brace it all up together. So I'm going to cut it in half, which is 1.8 or 1800. Just there. And as I say, measure twice, cut once. I've been saying 3/6 all this time, and it's actually 3 meters. I said 7.2, it's actually 6 meters long. And the guy on the other side of this little camera that you see, well, you can't see it, I can see it, has just been sitting there looking at me going, I don't know what he's talking about. I'm going to kill him. So this is what I mean, measure it twice, cut it once. I said 3/6, so 1.8, it's wrong. It's actually 3 meters, so it's only 1.5, which means the garden bed is not 1.8, as I said earlier, it's only 1.5. Bring it in. Oh, have a look. So we go there, 1.8 exactly. If you don't believe me, 1.8. That's what I positioned it at. Now, I used to think I had calibrated eyesight, which means I could see. Well, all the teams, all the landscapers that worked with me thought I was crazy because I could get it almost to the millimetre. Well, I'm starting to lose that with old age. So this has got to come in back to 1.5. So at the end of the tape on that side to here. So let's move it in. One nail on each side, just to get it right before we completely fit it out with nails. This is one of my uprights that I'm using to join the two pieces together. There's a joiner here. It's 400 long. I've got 2 bottom pieces and 2 top pieces to go in. And that helps me keep them together nice and tight, like that. But this will need a couple of screws in it as well so it doesn't fall apart. We also need to put a couple of braces in so it doesn't belly out. What I mean by belly out is that as you put the soil in, it starts to push against the walls, and because it's a 6 metre distance, in the middle, there's no bracing. We're sitting it on the ground. We're not digging any foundation in. So technically you can move it if it was able to be moved, you know, physically, because there's no footings on it. So to stop it from bellowing out, we need to actually put a brace across the center here. In actual fact, I might do, one in the middle, because that's where the joint is. It's a weak spot. One in the middle of each length of sleeper. So every 1500, it'll be basically a joist. Stop it from collapsing. So we've cut a noggin here, or a brace to go in the middle, but we're going to put the first one here, which again, see, I didn't check my level, I just nailed that in willy-nilly, and it's crooked. Was. Now we have to straighten it up. Now this is going to go in between, and this will give you a guide whether you're straight or not. Look how short it is. Now it's not because I cut this short, it's because this is actually moving outwards. So we'll straighten up the noggin or the little brace we've got the upright, but we need to bring it into there. So that's where it's got to go. So that it is holding it together, stops it from bellowing out. We'll just make sure it's nice and straight between the two lengths. And now I'm going to put the 4 corner upright so we can brace the top row and the bottom row together. Because without these, it'll be easy enough for the top one when it's sitting there to slide around. So by having this in there, it's got nowhere to go because it'll all be nailed together, or actually screwed together. I'm going to do it this way, I think. I like it that way. Now that we've just finished the bottom row, we're going to install the top row and nail them all in place exactly the same way as we've done the bottom row. The bottom one's longer. We measured them all, didn't we? Oh, look at that. Bottom one's longer by 15 mil. I need one extra 15 mil. Bugger me now. Now it's short by 15 mil up here. Look at the gap. This is the purpose of the bracing. See, this is what I was telling you earlier, folks. As the timber starts to dry out, it starts to twist and turn and buckle. Its natural position is that. Look at that. It's sitting above, so I've got to push it down, sit on it as best I can, and push the bottom in while we chuck a nail in there. You can use G-clamps and things like that to assist you with that. Well, I'm out here in the middle of nowhere. No one's watching. Come on, let's go. Put it in. Done. One more up here. Beautiful. I've just done our 4 pieces, our 2 rows high. And again, folks, this is all done by eye. We brought the level out just to test one of them as far as to see how much fall we got going on the land. And every corner's a little bit out because we didn't compact the soil perfectly level underneath there. And we've got a couple of little packers underneath in corners just to bring it to a better level finish. Now, it isn't 100% perfect, because it's, like I said, I'm doing it by eye, and this is an area where it's going to get worked over 1,000,000 times, and I'm not fast at the end of the day if it starts to shrink and buckle a little bit, but we are going to brace it together with screws. And what I've got in my hands here, the short noggins or braces, the upright braces that we're going to put in between these two, because these will belly out or inwards. And if you are building one from scratch and you get your sleepers, eye off the sleeper on top, and if there is a bit of a bow going in, make sure the bow or the belly is facing inwards so that when the soil pushes against it, hopefully it straightens it out. Because if you put it the outside, so the soil's on the inside and your bent timber is going that way, bowing outwards, it's only going to get worse. So anything that's curving, face the curve towards the center or inner part, and that way the soil pushes it out and hopefully straightens it up for you. And again, by eye, I'm spacing them out by eye, approximate, all the way around. So we just finished putting the whole frame up, the external body. It's a bit rough and ready, that's how I like it. And now what I'm going to do is put the external little skirting, if you like, around the outside, lift the plastic up, and then place the timber against it to hold it up, and we'll just trim off the excess plastic once we finish nailing it all together. Good old bud and grafting knife, folks. It's not only good for grafting, you can cut a bit of plastic, carve up a bit of meat on the table if you like. Use it for anything, as long as you clean it at the end, not like me. Look at this. This is not for budding, this is just for general purpose use. And that's what I've got to do now, folks. Basically screw it all together, because over time, as the timber starts to dry out, all the nails that I've inserted or used before to pull it together will go loose and the thing will start to fall apart, because it still has the soil pressure against the walls. So go around and screw it tight, and that's what I'm going to do to finish this off. And then I think it's going to be beer o'clock. So I'll come back tomorrow and I'll start filling this up and show you how I start layering it with my Miles compost, soil, black grit and all the wonderful stuff that we put in to bring it back to life. In the meantime, check out our website, VasilisGarden.com. Our end of, well, it's not the end of year, spring run out sale, Black Friday, goes till the end of this month, that is 30th of November, up to 80% off. And as I've been saying to you, these huge massive sales that we run almost every week are going to stop. It's not going to be available to the general public, it'll only be available to our members. So subscribe to our magazine, Vasilis Garden to Kitchen, and automatically become a VIP, and you'll have up to 80% off every day of the year. So you don't have to worry about sales, enjoy your products anytime you like. That's VasilisGarden.com. From me, Vasili Maresi.